My name's Hunter Scott. I'm a commander in the U.S. Navy. I'm a Navy helicopter pilot, and I currently work for the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on the Joint Staff. And Boys State alum from Florida, and a Boys Nation alum from 2002, and then was again a counselor in 2003. I knew in high school two things. I wanted to serve in the military, and then eventually serve in the government in some capacity. And so for me, Boys State and Boys Nation made a lot of sense. Being a program sponsored by the American Legion and attracting the talent that Boys State and Boys Nation attract, it just made a lot of sense. Personally, I've dedicated my life to service, and Boys State and Boys Nation both provided an opportunity for me to be around a bunch of like-minded, sharp, intelligent people that I got a lot of inspiration of, many of whom I still keep in touch with to this day. The reason I know about Boys State and Boys Nation, an older gentleman who was a part of the American Legion that went to my church that was for decades a counselor at the Florida Boys State, and his name is Curtis Walker. And at church one Sunday said, "Hey, you really need to be a part of this Boys State program." I said, "What's that?" And he told me about it and gave me a personal invitation, connected me with my local American Legion post, and he's the reason that I went to the Boys State program. And he has been a long-time friend and mentor, and he's the reason that I not only know about the programs, but am a proud alumni of these programs too. I learned my greatest lesson in leadership from my time as a Boys Nation delegate and then as a Boys Nation counselor. And that is, for me to be an effective leader, I first need to be comfortable with myself. And then I would have the attention not to focus on myself, but to focus on the people that I would be responsible for leading. And when I came to Boys Nation in 2002, I was, I think, a very good delegate. I love our country, I love our government, I love the military, I love all aspects of living a life of service. And so when I got to Boys State and then was selected to go to Boys Nation, I took the program very seriously. I loved every part of it. Yeah, I was fully engaged. I introduced legislation. I was involved in all the conversations. I always tried to sit in the front, ask engaging questions, develop a relationship with the other boys. I loved it. And I think the counselors took notice of that too, because I was invited back to be a counselor. And at the time, if you're invited back to be a counselor, it was usually for a period of 3 years. I was only invited back to be a counselor for 1 year because while I was a very good delegate, I was a terrible counselor. Upon many years of being able to reflect on this, of my own insecurities, I wanted to be well liked and to be thought of as cool more than I wanted to be, to use Navy words, in command or responsible for good order and discipline and to make sure that these boys got the most out of the program. So I didn't enforce basic discipline standards. I lost control of the group. My group was rowdy and undisciplined. And by the time I realized that I needed to kind of bring in the reins a little bit, it was too late. I had lost all kind of respect from the group. And so I was not invited back as a counselor subsequent years. And I have thought about that many times over the last few years. In fact, I just graduated from grad school at Harvard, and one of the essay prompts allowed me the opportunity to write about that story, something that has changed my viewpoint or I wish I could go back and do over again. And I wrote about this very thing. In order to be an effective leader, I first needed to be comfortable with myself. And it was only because of the Boys Nation program and then years of reflection afterwards that I was able to realize that. I think every boy in America ought to go to Boys State. And if you can, Boys Nation. They are really, really incredible programs. At the Boys State level, it is the only hands-on civics lesson that I know like it. The only other civics class I had was in the 8th grade. And my week at Boys State, Florida, and then the time that I spent at Boys Nation, not only taught everything in that I learned throughout all of 8th grade, but I got to do hands-on, which for me makes it a much more memorable experience. And it doesn't matter what your dreams or goals, I think, are. For me, you can see a direct line to Boys State or Boys Nation and my path as an officer in the military. But whether you want to go in business or you want to be in healthcare or you want to be engaged in your community, I think Boys State makes a lot of sense because we all feel the decisions of our government. And so whether we are directly involved, we got to know, how the process works. So a huge fan of the program. I wish every boy in America could participate in Boys State. And then also in Boys Nation. The people that I formed relationships with in Boys Nation, I still keep in touch with a handful of them to this day. And now we're over 20 years later. And it is just really an incredible group of not only kids, but an incredible staff from the American Legion that puts on this program for free, to teach people about our government. And I just couldn't say, be more positive about the program. The kids that I went to Boys State and Boys Nation with are doing really incredible things, from farmers to community organizers to physicians, even a lot of them in the military and in government service. So it really doesn't matter what you want to do. It's good to learn about the government. It's really wonderful to build relationships with the other students at Boys State or Boys Nation. And you never know who you're going to meet at these programs and how it'll shape and change your life.